I mostly focus on understanding how the existence of incomplete information about the environment affects the interaction among competing companies. And the incomplete information can be related to uncertainty about demand, uncertainty about technology, anything that is unknown there. Why is it complicated to understand? Because in an environment that you are the only one, so you gather information as much as you can, you survey customers, you learn about the technology, and then based upon a certain signal, you make a decision, you know that you have done the best in doing so. If you are interacting with somebody else, you know that he is also exposed to uncertainty. You know that he is doing the same thing in terms of gathering information about the environment. And now you're trying to predict not only what you do, but also the way he is going to behave. And this suddenly makes life complicated. And let me give you an example. So you have, it's safe to assume that being first to market in terms of new product, new technology, establishing first a presence is giving you an advantage. For instance, suppose you compete over a fixed size of market. You come in first, you grab a big chunk of it in terms of establishing the capacity to serve 80% of the market. Somebody comes in later, looks at it, I have only 20%. It's going to be very difficult to convince those guys that have already been with me to switch to their product. Now introduce uncertainty. Introduce uncertainty about how profitable this market is, willingness to pay of consumers, the strength of the demand, something unknown about characteristics of the customer. And suppose now that what you do is being observed by the competitor before he comes in and interpreted, and he draws inferences about how strong the demand is. Now you're trying to mislead him, right? Because he reads it, and if what you do say is establishing a level of capacity. If you establish a very large capacity, he looks at it and says, "Oh, this market is going to grow forever. I want to come in and compete against this guy because I'll have lots of profits. So maybe I'll cut back on my capacity in order to convince him, don't come in, because it's not as great." So his presence and his ignorance is forcing you to do something that is counterproductive, because you do want to establish a presence and establish a big capacity. So the fact that you have incomplete information complicates. And therefore, you many times have an incentive. How do I inform him about the true state without him having to draw inferences? Maybe I hire somebody, a third party, that will somehow leak information to him so that he will not have to read it through my actions, because it affects my actions. So this kind of thinking, incomplete information really complicates matters.